episode of The Running Wine Mom is sponsored by Freshworks Home Circle. If you're in Northeast Philly and haven't tried Freshworks yet, what are you waiting for? From signature hoagies piled high with premium meats and cheeses to fresh salads, wings, and made-to-order paninis, everything is crafted with quality flavor in mind. It's family-owned, local, and your new go-to for satisfying bites any day of the week. Skip the drive-thru, order online at freshworkshome.com, and taste the fresh difference today. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. You know that feeling when you watch a TV show and it just gets you? Well, for teachers, parents, and honestly, anyone who's ever stepped inside a school, Abbott Elementary is that show. It's hilarious, heartfelt, and shines a light on the everyday heroes who shape young minds. But what if I told you the name Abbott isn't just fiction? Today, I'm sitting down with the real-life inspiration behind the hit ABC series, Joyce Abbott. Joyce is a powerhouse, a dedicated educator, a military veteran, a mentor, a leader, and now an author. Her new book, Teaching the Miss Abbott Way, Lessons in Learning, Leadership, and Life, dives into her journey, the lessons she's learned in the classroom and beyond, and how every teacher can make a lasting impact. We're talking about everything, what it's like to find out Abbott Elementary was named after her, her decades in education, the hilarious and beautiful moments she's experienced in the classroom, and the wisdom she wants to pass on to the next generation of teachers and leaders. So without further ado, let's welcome Miss Joyce Abbott. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you. I'm such a fan of the show, and I had the opportunity to watch you speak at the Women in Leadership event in Philadelphia. And also, being from the Philadelphia area, go Birds, you know, we're on a great happiness right now. Before we get into all the fun stuff, to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Miss Abbott, what is your WINE of the week?
Wow, it's a Prosecco by Issa Rae. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And what is your win of the week?
Of course, the Eagles, the parade, yes. Everything. That is big, big, big.
That's awesome. And what's your wine of the week? Your sadness.
The weather. It's like the wind, the rain, the weather. That was kind of eating the branches and the power on and off. That's a wine.
Did you lose any power?
It went off and came back, but I didn't lose it like a lot of people I know had it gone all night. So it was very unfortunate.
That was us. It was like blinking on and off.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
Okay. Being a combat war veteran, I definitely navigated being in a war, a conflict, away from my daughter, which was extremely difficult because she was young then and I was gone for almost a year. And I overcame that. I didn't think I was going to make it, but that is definitely something, and it shaped me, it made me stronger, and it just made me, even appreciate more. And not saying that I have not always appreciated, being with family even more. Sometimes some people underestimate that.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service. I was just in awe learning about all of the things that you did. I mean, I knew Abbott Elementary was named after a teacher, which is already great in itself, and all of the other things that you're doing. You're just such a powerhouse is really the best word for it.
Well, thank you.
So let's talk a little fitness. What is your favorite way to stay active?
Really walking. My hope is this year to get back into the gym, but walking and no dancing. I'll dance by myself.
Love dancing. I'm going to do a dance class tonight, actually, at my gym after this.
That's what I want to get into, because dancing and then it's exercise. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, the class that I do, it's so fun. I think if you're ever in the Newtown area, you could come to the class with me.
Definitely.
So how does maintaining your fitness routine contribute to your understanding of the relationship between mental health and physical health?
Because, you have to be physically fit for me, to maintain your mental stability. because without the physical fitness, sometimes it could just take control over your mind. And also being physically fit, like when I'm walking, or maybe even when you're exercising, it does so much to relieve things that are on your mind and gives you a sense of calm, a sense of peace. So both of them, they intertwine, and they're equally as important to balance out each other.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so the running wine mom next, we talk a little parenting. Tell us about your family.
Well, I'm the youngest of 8. My mother is currently 102. She'll be 103 March 2nd. Yes, I have 3 brothers and 4 sisters, and I have one daughter in the trees. That's
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah,
And what do you think your parenting style was raising your daughter?
that's a good question. I've never been asked that. Firm but loving, supportive, caring, understanding, with a little firmness and toughness and not being liked sometimes.
Got it. It's hard. I feel like teaching really prepared me for parenthood in the fact that like you're not going to be liked all the time. And I'm like, okay, you guys will get over this.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think you were least prepared for in parenting?
The separation, the long separations that I was away from her, and not only with the Persian Gulf War, but when I came back and ended up separating and eventually divorcing, and we went to Germany, I had to keep deploying and leaving her, and that was very difficult because we were in a different country. I didn't have family there. I did have very supportive babysitters, and that's what led me to come out, because I probably would have stayed in the military for 20 years.
Wow. And what is one piece of parenting advice that you would give to your parents?
Be open for conversation and receptive and caring, and even through the good and the bad. Remember, as your child, you may not agree with everything they do or every choice they make, but you always have to love and support.
All right. Well, thank you. So let's get into it. I have to ask, what has this whirlwind of recognition been like for you? One minute you're shaping young minds in the classroom, and the next your name is on an Emmy-winning show. What is that? What is the feeling of that?
It was different, especially for me, because first of all, I'm humbly honored by everything, but it definitely was different for me because I worked and I came home. I kept a small circle. I was never like out in the limelight. So being out like this and meeting people and going on different speaking engagements, it's definitely different for me. The good thing is I have really met some really wonderful people in this work that I really, and outside of the work also, that I probably would have never had the opportunity to meet. And I've come across awesome organizations that are doing great work in the field of education, some that I didn't even know about. In that respect, it's been pretty good, but it's been very different for me in my life, very different, but again, humbly honored.
That's wonderful. And so before we get into Abbott Elementary and your book, let's go back. What originally drew you to education after your military career? What was the moment where you just knew, like, this is where I want to get into?
Well, really, in life, I really, in the back, my mom wanted to be a teacher. Like I used to play with my sister's perfume bottles, and they were the students. And even when I played with my friends and family, I was always the teacher. However, when I went into undergraduate, I did major in business economics. So I wanted to go. Once when I was in the military, and I decided that I really had to transition out due to me being absent from my daughter a lot. During my transitional process, the Troops and Teachers program was something that was introduced to me. And I was like, wow, and I could go back to my first love. And I applied and I was accepted. And it was a blessing for me, and it helped me obtain my master's degree. And I went right into teaching in the inner city of Philadelphia after that.
That's awesome. So how did your time in the Army kind of shape the way that you approach teaching and discipline in the classroom?
Well, from the Army, you're very disciplined, you're very organized, you're very, no nonsense, but you also are a very good team player. And even if you disagree with your battle buddy or disagree with your buddy, sometimes those decisions that you make could, be life changing, could be in someone's life. So you really kept you kept focused toward the total goal, the vision, the mission. So when I came into, my schools or the schools that I served in, regardless if I did not agree or see the same as my colleagues, I never let that interfere with the mission of educating students. And also walking into challenging environments. First year, I walked into a class with 37 students almost. various behavior. I mean, it was challenging. But coming out of a challenging environment, I was a combat war veteran. I mean, I'm going to tackle this just like I tackled. And it gave me, the stamina, and I wasn't scared of hard work. I wasn't scared of long hours because I was used to long hours, 12, 13, 15 hours a day. We done ran a 9-mile battalion run before 7 in the morning.
So if you're looking to get into teaching, this is what you have to do before to prepare you. And as we know, teaching isn't just a profession. It really is a calling. What did keep you going on those hard days? And what advice would you give to educators who are really feeling burned out?
That's a good question. Just understanding my why I was doing the work, and understanding, my passion, because I knew it was hard. So understanding my why, and I had several hard days, saying, okay, you have to stay focused on your why. Why did you do this? You want to be impactful. You are a product of the community that you're serving. You were born and raised in West Philadelphia. You're a product of the public school system. You can make a change because in some instances, you are this child's only hope. So with that alone, it just kept me moving. And then when I seen the progress I was making, even with the students, even some of the most challenging students, it kept me encouraged. But as far as advice to, people in the profession, if you understand your why, because it's difficult, and you are truly passionate, you're not going to quit as easy. It's not a magic word I can say to say, okay, this is going to help you stay in a profession. Because if it's not in here and you're not willing for them challenges, it's going to be easy to give up because the profession is extremely difficult right now.
Yes, I feel all of that as being in the profession for, I think this is my 16th year, 14th at my school. Yeah. But I'm over the bridge I'm in Burlington City at the high school there. I've been there for, yeah. So I feel everything you're saying, I can totally relate to. So let's talk about being the Abbott in Abbott Elementary. When did you first find out that it was being named after you, and what was your reaction?
Well, even when Quinta was a comedian, my daughter always followed her on social media. So at the onset of her starting this, my daughter said, Quinta's in a show and it's going to be named Abbott Elementary. I just know it has something to do with you. I really didn't think twice about that, even though it was spelled ABB.
Even though it's your last name.
Yeah. And then one night while watching the Channel 6 News, Isha Pittarelli was like talking about Abbott Elementary and how it was, the name of the show was inspired by this actual teacher, Joyce Abbott. And she was like, if you're watching, Quinta would like to reconnect. I'm like, what? For real? Because I watched him. So that's when it was actually, confirmed that, the name of the show was actually inspired by me.
Wow. And so, you had Quinta as a student. Mm-hmm. Did she have any early signs that she'd be going on to doing something as incredible as she's doing?
I never thought that she would be a comedian, but I am not shocked at all by her success because she was driven, as I'm not shocked with a lot of my students' success. But she was very driven at the time, very determined, took challenges head on. So I wasn't shocked. I was very happy, for her. I'm very proud of her. Definitely.
Aww. So watching the show, do you see pieces of yourself in any of the characters?
Janine, Quinta's character, what we relate to is like her caring, like when the light bulb was out, we're going to fix this light bulb to ensure, going above and beyond to ensure that the environment is conducive for our students. Another instance when they were bringing a young man in the class into the school and he's supposed to have been gifted, she just was adamant about the belief that all of our students should be able to achieve and receive quality education. In that respect, I relate to her, but like she's really happy-go-lucky. I wasn't happy-go-lucky with my students, but not that. But on the sense of a teacher's perspective, I relate for the Arbor Howard, Shirley Ralph, because she is the veteran, the older teacher, and she gets respect. She knows a lot of the students that come back, even that their children may go to the school now, and that was the case with me. But just definitely understanding, caring, but no nonsense.
Yeah. If you could create an episode based on your teaching experience, what do you think it would look like?
I think they just hit on so much. I think they hit on everything. They hit on not only the great things, they hit on the problems, they hit on even the environmental problems, the issues with the parents. So I think they do a pretty good job of hitting on everything. I can't think of something like right offhand that I would add to put on a storyline, because I think they cover a wide array of issues that's
Yeah.
faced within the district.
And they really, really do such a great job of it. I actually couldn't watch it at first because I felt so much connection with it. Like I felt as though this is what happens in my school. And like, I want to just relax at home. This is making me stressed out, you know?
Yeah.
So, just like we just said, it does such a great job of balancing humor with real struggles that teachers face. One is one of the funniest or most memorable moments from your own classroom.
Well, I remember so much, but the most thing that I remembered is the way, students were able to achieve success. Students that were, you know, labeled as below basic, and not being able to achieve, where they were finally able to achieve a basic level. The funny thing is, my students, I set the bar so high that, like, even when I'm speaking, because we have to speak in complete sentences, it was like, "Excuse me, Miss Abbott, you use a double negative." I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And the way they would, like, if people had to come into my class to cover, and I also always told them, when people come in, they're required to teach you, because my class was so well behaved, and often people would try to give them free time and play this and play that. They said, "We don't do free time, we do constructive time. Our learning is too important." And how they would just, one was on their phone. They was like, "Excuse me, with all due respect, we don't be on our phone in here." And it was like, "Go sit down." But just the way they stood up for themselves, even as far as like when the teacher came in was chewing gum, and they said, "We don't chew gum. That you have to lead by example." And people were just like really shocked. But so often when people come into the classes and the children are so organized, so well behaved, you just want to give them free time. No, that's not what you're paid to do. So it's funny that my students, that they spoke up for themselves.
No, that's wonderful. And that's one of the things that someone told me before I started teaching was like, it could, because, I'm obviously at high school and a lot of the kids are independent, and you want to have such structure that you could leave the classroom and nobody would even know what, that you left, because they're on such a schedule. And that's always been something that I've tried to do. And it sounds so similar to what you're talking about in success. So I'm on the right path, I think.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your book. Your book, Teaching the Miss Abbott Way. It's not just about education, it's about leadership and life. What's one lesson from the book that you think applies to everyone, not just teachers?
Setting the bar higher. Setting the bar higher.
Yes.
That applies to everyone, not just teachers, in your normal life. And whatever we do and whatever we are in, always set the bar higher to try to do better, and to maximize your greatness. But, just that is one definitely key point, is setting the bar higher in every, aspect of your life, even with your health, with your fitness, as we were saying, your eating habits, just setting the bar higher to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And people get comfortable in everyone in any part of life. And that's something that, when you're comfortable, it feels nice there, but what are you really achieving? And like you said, setting the bar higher.
Yeah.
You also talk about the importance of climate and community in learning. What do you think schools and maybe society need to do better to support both students and teachers?
So much. In supporting the students, you really need to get to know them. You need to, in order to effectively be able to support them, you have to know their story. So if you're not understanding them, if you don't know their background, if you're not building a relationship with them, it's going to be difficult to support them, because they're not going to trust you. You have to build that trust. So with every student, understand, when you build that trust and they can trust you, and you build that relationship where they respect you, then you can make moves in their life. But until then, especially a lot of them, they'll have a block up. And as far as with teachers, you have to just be supportive of them, especially our new ones, because they're just learning. They don't know. And so often people would say, "They're not going to make it. They're not going to make it," but be supportive of them, and encourage them. Not only say negative. If you're going to bring something negative, you come with a solution, but they need support. Just being a team, because so often some teachers are in these schools by themselves, and it's not a team. It should be a team, but the teachers need that. And I just really think teachers really should be paid a whole lot more.
I would be good with that.
Yes. But they do need the support. And if they need the support in instructional areas, I think every leader should be able to go in and model. You lead by example. And if you can't if you can't go in and show this teacher and lead a lesson if they're struggling, then that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to go back to what you were saying about building relationships with students, one of the veteran teachers that told me when I was there is if you're having a behavioral issue with a student, find out what they love to do and go do that. So like if they're on the soccer team, go to their soccer game. If they're on the basketball team, go to the basketball game. Like if they're in the chess club, go check out chess club, whatever it is, try and see what they're involved with.
It's really good.
Outside of school, you know?
She's exactly right about that. That is so important. That is so important. She's right.
Yeah. So if you could go back and give first year Miss Abbott one piece of advice, what would it be?
You can do it. I gave myself advice. For real. You can do it. The challenges, the obstacles, the discipline problems, you can do it because you are destined to make a difference in the life of children. So you're going to hang in there regardless of your days and your nights. You're going to hang in there and you could do this, Joyce. You could do it. You got it. I encourage myself a lot during teaching anyway, and that's what teachers have to do.
Yeah.
If you're looking for your leaders and your colleagues to encourage you, it's not going to happen.
It's so true. It's like very easy to kind of get into the negative of it. And it's like, no, you do your thing with your class and be successful. So you did kind of touch on this, like your leadership in school culture, but it did really earn you so much recognition. And I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to imagine that you could have such respect from your students while still keeping such a warm, supportive environment. How can other educators get that balance?
Again, it goes back with, and I'm a firm believer of that, building those relationships. I did that a lot early in the school year, having one-on-one conferences, especially with my more troubled students. Let me buy you lunch today. Building relationships with the parents, like genuine, honest relationships, not just calling when it's a problem. I just want to tell you I'm proud, especially when you have students who have struggled either academically, especially in this area, or with behavior-wise, when they get a call, a positive call home, better, it does so much for the parent also. It does so much for the parent because they don't really get it. And even with our students that do well all the time and exceed all the time, I heard that from one of my students who do so well, they don't even get calls because they're doing well. So it's all to celebrate because those parents need to be celebrated too because they're doing something right. I just want to thank you. It's worries, but thank you because such is doing so well and it's a pleasure to have them. Building those relationships. If you don't build the relationships, because this thing is a teamwork. It takes the home, the school, the child, but the relationships have to be built. And I put a lot of time into that early on, building those relationships. And that helped to move further and to be able to be more effective and changing, making a difference in my students' lives.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about even the good kids. They do need, and I find myself kind of forgetting that too. Because you're like, oh, they're already great. They're on the right track. And so this year, actually, one of my, not goals, but just something to remember because my daughter's first year of preschool is this year. So I really see like her teacher will email me like good stuff. And I'm like, I need to do this to my high school parents because it feels really good when you get those emails. Not just the negative. And even when bad kids, I remember years ago, sorry to go on a little tangent, I had a student who was so bad. He was so bad. And we worked like so hard with him. I'd be calling his mom and she's like, I know, like whatever. So then he like got on track. So I call her and she's like, oh, what did he do now? And I'm like, no, I actually wanted to tell you, like, he's been great in class and he's doing so well. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, this is so.
It probably made her day.
Yeah. It's, parents just want to know that we're succeeding too. And
it helps build that relationship. It helps build that relationship. So if you do have to call with something concerning, they know you're just not calling, to be negative.
Yeah. So how do you hope educators, parents, and even students themselves feel after reading your book?
Inspired. I just hope they feel inspired that there is hope. Things can change, but and everyone plays an equal part in ensuring that our students are successful. It's not just the teacher, it's not just the parent, it's not just the administrator, it's not just the community, it's everyone together, collaborating together, doing their part. It takes an entire village to raise a child. It takes an entire
It's so
village.
true.
And that's what
So let's Yeah, let's get into some fun questions now. So your name is literally on the map now with Joyce Abbott Way. What does this honor mean to you?
Wow, humbly honored. Every time I ride by the street, I'm still like shocked. It means I'm just honored. I'm humbly honored, and it means a lot. And I just hope it just encourages teachers like, wow, you really do, even when you don't know, you're making a difference and making a big impact. But it means a lot to me. I'm humbly honored. I'm definitely
Yeah.
humble. I would have never expected anything of this nature, believe me.
And you've been able to also go on some really cool shows like the Jimmy Kimmel Show. What experience was the most surreal for you?
Oof, all of them really, because I'm not just Jimmy Kimmel. That was my first one. Like when they called me, I'm like Jimmy Kimmel, and I didn't eat that day because I was still working. I was still working. I was the climate manager. I was extremely, extremely nervous. They were going to fly me out, but due to COVID concerns, we just did it on virtual, and Clinton didn't know. But yeah, I was extremely nervous. I didn't eat that day. That was like the first one. So that big Family Feud was fun too. I got to be with all the cast in person. So that was
That
really
is so
cool. That was
cool.
the first time I met all of them in person.
Yeah, how was it meeting? They probably thought you were the celebrity of, how was it meeting all of the character or all the
They're
actors?
awesome. They're awesome. I've done several things with Tyler James, and I've done a few things with Shirley Ralph, and I greeted Lisa Malters when she came to Philadelphia on the food truck tour. I met her there. So all of them are very nice. I really like all of the cast members that I've had the opportunity to meet and interact with.
That's
Really
awesome.
nice, down to earth.
So, if your younger self could see you now being recognized in the beautiful city of Philadelphia, inspiring thousands, millions, having a book, what do you think that she would say?
Not this wouldn't be happening. Not my young. Oh no, it never happened. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was raised in West Philadelphia, product of the Philadelphia Public Schools. I'm not saying being an effective educator, I could see that, but all of this, I would have never imagined at all in my younger self, ever.
So cool. So, teaching is a career that takes a lot out of you. What is your favorite way to recharge and take care of yourself?
Oh, wow. Now, when I was working, I didn't do a lot, taking time for myself. But as you said, unwind, just relax, listen to some nice music, have a nice glass of wine, go for a walk, go out with friends, in church. But now I'm unwinding a little bit, listen to some nice music, dance.
I love that. Love that. Love that. Um, all right. I just want to, so we're approaching the last question. Is there anything that I missed? You've answered so much.
No, you've done
Okay.
very good.
Great. All right. All right. So last but not least, what is next for Miss Joyce Abbott? More books, more speaking engagements, maybe a cameo?
Well, right now, no, they have a good cast. They do. Right now, I'm just now promoting my book, going to speaking engagements, and I continue to mentor teachers, talk to them. They'll call me, visit schools. But right now, I'm promoting my book and just my speaking obligations, and I'll probably do a book tour, and I have some other upcoming speaking engagements coming up, and that's about it.
Yay. That's about it. That's it. Just that little thing that you're. Well, this was just such an amazing conversation, and I
Yes, it
appreciate you
was.
so much for coming on.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. What an absolute honor it was to have Miss Joyce Abbott on the show today. Her passion for education, her leadership, and the way she continues to inspire not just students, but teachers, parents, and communities is truly incredible. If you loved today's conversations, you have to check out her book, Teaching the Miss Abbott Way, Lessons in Learning, Leadership, and Life, which I will link in the show notes. It's packed with wisdom, heart, and real stories from her time in the classroom, stories that will inspire anyone, whether you're an educator or just someone who believes in the power of learning and mentorship. And of course, if you're not already watching Abbott Elementary, what are you waiting for? Miss Abbott's legacy is living on in such a fun and meaningful way, and I, for one, cannot wait to see what is next for her. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can follow me on Instagram at @TheRunningWineMom_. And Miss Abbott, where can the listeners find you?
The Real Miss Abbott on all social media platforms, and the realmissabbott.com. Yeah,
Perfect.
therealmissabbott.com.
Awesome. I will link all of that. Thank you again so much for
Thank
coming
you
today.
so much. It was nice meeting you and chatting with you.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.